Hello, everybody. Thank you for everyone for joining in today. My name is Rabbi Mordechai Chalk. I am the rabbi in Watford and District Synagogue, and I'm sitting here in the shul behind me. You may be able to see is the Aron of the shul. Lovely little community just outside London in Watford. I'm also a teacher in JFS, so then you've got kids there. I may know your kids. This week I want to look into the Parasha of this week is Parasha Shemot, and I want to look into a bit into Moshe and the story of the burning bush. Before we do that, though, I would like to show you a short video clip. Just load it up.
Beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. Sir, I just want to say thank you. You saved my life.
So that's the end of the clip I want to show you. Just hold on. So just hold on a minute. I just want to bring up another screen to share. It should be the give me a moment. There we go. Fine. So I'll bring up these Mara Makomas. These are Mara Makomas. I'll start bringing up Mara Makomas later when we need them. But as I said, that video clip for me was a very powerful clip. It's from a film called Coach Carter. Now, the film was about a school which was failing, had a mediocre basketball team, and the Coach Carter came in and took the team and tried to make them not only better at basketball, but better students as well. He signed a contract with all the students saying that they would sit at the front of the class, participate, go to every lesson, and excel in their studies. A few months later, they were doing really well in basketball, but he went to their teachers and it came that they were not keeping to their side of the bargain. They were not doing what they were supposed to do. And the argument ensued, he locked the gym, and the parents sued, and the gym was reopened. That clip, which I just played, is a clip of one of the students telling the coach that the reason why we weren't doing well is not because we were too lazy or couldn't bother, but because we were scared of how great we could each be. And I'm going to get back to that soon. And show you why that clip is so important to all of our lives. Before that, let's understand who Moshe was. If we look at the beginning of this week's Parasha, not at the beginning, close to the beginning of this week's Parasha, we're introduced to a person called Moshe. He was not yet born. His parents, Amram and Yocheved, were convinced by the Medrash tells us that they were convinced by their daughter Miriam to have another child, even though at that time the Egyptian oppression was terrible and children were being killed, newborn children were being killed. The daughter convinced them to have another child. 9 months later, the boy Moshe was born. He wasn't called Moshe at that time, though. Knowing what had happened and scared that he would be caught by the Egyptians, his parents built a wicker basket for him and hid him in the river Nile. The daughter of the king of Pharaoh came down to the river and saw, Batya her name was, and saw that wicker basket floating in the river, pulled it out, and adopted the boy Moshe as her own child. Growing up in the palace, he had everything he could want. He didn't need to know anything else. He could have led an easy life. Yet, from a young age, Moshe showed signs of leadership already. He went out, he knew he was Jewish, and he went out to see what was happening to his people. He saw an Egyptian taskmaster mercilessly beating another Jew. Not being able to stand for such a sight, Moshe killed the taskmaster, rescued the Jew, and hid the taskmaster's body in the sand. The next day, Moshe went out for a walk again. And he saw two Jews fighting and said to them, "Why are you hitting each other? What are you doing?" And I want to bring up the source sheet now, and I want to show you the first of the sources, which we want. If you look at the first of the sources, says, the guy replied back to Moshe, "Who appointed you as a chief and ruler over us? Are you going to kill us like you killed that mystery?" And Moshe became frightened and thought, "Wow, now I know. The matter is known." So there are two factors here which I would like to, there are two ways of understanding what it means the matter is known. The simplest way of understanding is that yes, it is known. The Pharaoh knows that I killed one of his people. I'm not safe in Egypt anymore. I've got to run away. And he did. He fled and he ran away. He met his sister, he met his future wife and his future father-in-law. Another idea, which I'm going to come back to as well, is that Moshe said, if this is how they're treating each other, maybe there's a reason why they have not yet been redeemed. I'm going to come back to that as well. But as I said, Moshe had to flee Egypt. He ran away. He found his wife, future wife, she was a shepherd. He found his future father-in-law. He got married, had a couple of children. And he became the shepherd for his father-in-law. And as the time was going on, he would take the sheep out to pasture, to graze into the desert, away from the fields, away from other people's fields. And one day, as Moshe was taking the sheep out to graze in this desert, one of the little lambs ran away. Moshe, mere conscientious shepherd, being a good worker, he ran after the sheep and rescue it. And as he was running after the sheep to rescue it, he noticed a bush, a little shrub that was on fire. And as we know, the shrub that was on fire, but behold, it was not being consumed by the flames. The fire was there, but so was the bush. Moshe turned to the bush, and the conversation ensued between Moshe and God, which ended up with Moshe becoming the leader of the Jewish nation, one of the most prolific leader we have ever had. However, it was not such a straightforward conversation. It wasn't a matter of Moshe, God saying to Moshe, "You are going to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt. You are going to be the Redeemer and their Savior under my guidance." That's not. And Moshe said, "Fine, that's what you say, I'll do that." That's not what happened. Midrash tells us there was a 7-day conversation, a full week. And Moshe was arguing back, saying no. Well, what are the arguments that Moshe gave? What did he say to them? So let's look at this. In source number 3, Moshe said to God, that I should go to Paro. That I should take the Jewish people out of Egypt. In source 3, Moshe says, "Who am I? I'm not the right person for this job. I don't know. I can't do this. I don't have the right skills. I'm a shepherd." You can think of 100 excuses why I shouldn't be the one to do this. I don't know them. I'm not really connected. Moshe said, I shouldn't be the one doing this job. And God said, "I'm appointing you. You're doing it." And then Moshe came up with a second. Argument. Second argument was, Moshe said to God, "Mi anochi, who am I ki elech?" No, we've done that one. Source number 4. Moshe answered, and he said, "Hein lo ya'aminu li." They won't believe me. They won't listen to my voice. They'll say, "God did not appear to you." And Moshe has had some experience with this. Moshe already has had some experience with the people not behaving well. Remember, we go back up to source number 1. Go all the way back up to source number 1. What happened? Source number 1 said, are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? Who are you? The people didn't believe. They didn't care to believe. And Moshe had seen that with the people. And he was saying to God, you know what? I'm going to go there. I'm going to tell the Jewish people that God sent me. They're not going to believe me. Why should I go? Why should I waste my time? First argument was, I'm not the right person for the job. It's not my skill set. Second argument was, they wouldn't believe me anyway. It's a waste of time. Which God's response was very interesting. God said, how can you speak like that about my people? That's terrible. And in fact, the Torah gives 3 signs to Moshe that he should display to the Jewish nation that he was sent by God. Well, the first one, his staff turned to a serpent. The serpent is a symbol of bad, of evil. But remember, go back to the beginning of creation, the story of Adam and Eve, where the serpent ended up destroying the harmony of the world at the time. The first symbol is a symbol of, and you go further into the future, when the Jewish people speak bad, and Moshe creates a serpent on a stick. A serpent represents bad, it represents evil, it represents bad things. And Moshe is saying to Moshe, you just did something terrible. You spoke Lashon Hara about my people. The second symbol, he stuck his hand in his jacket, pulled it out, and was covered in sarat. Leprosy is mistranslated as usually. And Moshe recognized that he had spoken badly about the Jewish people. And he said, fine, I'm not going to go with that argument anymore. There is one more argument I would like to bring up, though. Moshe said, Losh devar manochi, I'm not a man of word, I've never been a good orator. I'm not a good speaker. I stumble, I stutter. I'm not a good speaker. I know I'm not a great leader. No, fine, you're right, God. I can do this job if necessary. I've got I can, if you push me to do it, I can do it. There are better people for the job than me. I'm not the best there is. Why are you asking me to do it? To which God finally got angry. God said, I'm sending you. I want you to do it. And Moshe acquiesced. Moshe agreed, and he went with God. And he went to be the savior of the Jewish people. The Torah also tells us something very interesting about Moshe. Right at the end of the Torah tells us that Moshe was anav mikol adam. Moshe was the most humble of all people. His humility knew no bounds. But what does humble mean? And did Moshe start off like that? To answer these questions, I'd like to break down a bit more these arguments that Moshe had with God. And how do they apply to us in our lives as well? The first argument that Moshe had with God was, I'm not the right person. I can't do this job. It's not my skill set. It's not who I am. Moshe was a bit scared almost. He was nervous. Remember that video, the video we watched at the beginning, the video I shared at the beginning? What did the guy say? He said, we are scared that we are even greater than we can imagine we are. We are much greater than we can ever imagine that we are. And Moshe was scared of that. At that time, Moshe was actually potentially scared of his greatness. We all have that greatness within us. And Moshe was scared of it. What was God's response to Moshe? God said back to Moshe, I'm with you. I'll be with you. You're not doing this. I'm doing it. You are my messenger. That's what God's response to Moshe was. What was Moshe's second argument? Hein lo yaminu bi. Moshe said, fine, you're with me, God. I can do it then. Fine, you're with me. I can probably, even though I'm not skilled for this whatsoever, I can do it. But then they wouldn't believe me. Moshe was pushing the blame onto somebody else. He was pushing the blame away from himself to other people, saying, you know what? They're not going to believe me at all. And how many times in life do we have the same problem as well? That we want to get something done, we want to do something. We see a burning bush, a metaphorical burning bush. Let's look back at the Pasuk again. Let's go back up to that Pasuk in source number 2. It says, an angel of God of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire out of the bush. Gazed, and there was a bush all aflame, yet the bush was not consumed. Moshe said, I must turn aside and look into this marvelous sight. Why doesn't the bush burn up? No, on a metaphorical level, we all have burning bushes in our life. We all have those moments where we want to do something, we feel need to get something done. But then the excuses start piling in. The first excuse you've been through already, I can't do this, it's not my skill set, it's not up to me, someone else will do it. The second excuse is, oh, that person will make it not happen, the other person will ruin it. I will do it, but everyone else around me will stop it from working. Even before we have started, the excuses have started coming out. Even before we begin, we look for reasons not to do it. The first reason, a second reason, blame other people. Everyone else is going to make it fail. I will make it successful, but no one's going to work with me. It's going to be a miserable failure because nobody else is going to help me. Which God sends us a reminder. Who are you to speak of other people like that? How dare you speak of my people like that? I, said God, created them. I, said God, believe in them. How dare you speak badly about my creations? Don't use them as an excuse for not wanting doing something. That should never be an excuse. Yes, you may have had past experiences with things not working out because of other people even. But everyone's up for change. Anyone can change. We are fantastic. Everyone has got such amazing strengths. Let's not push off what we want to do because we think somebody else may not be up for it. And what was the third excuse? What was Moshe's third and final excuse? Another excuse which we're all too familiar with. Yeah, I probably could do it if I pushed hard. There's someone better than me. I'm not the best. There are people who are much better than me at this. They should do it, not me. Why should I be the one taking care of everything? And there's so many people who are so much better at everything than I am. Why can't they do this job instead? Why is it being left onto me to do? And that's why God gets angry. But why does God get angry over here? Why does he get angry with Moshe? Is that not a fair question? Is that not a fair thing to say for Moshe? And the answer is, no, it's not. Because how is this really different to the first argument Moshe had? What was God's answer? Moshe's first argument was, I can't do this. It's not my skill set. Nothing I can do about this. I can't do that. What's God's answer? God's answer was, I will be with you. If you try, you won't be alone. I will be there doing it alongside you. That's the same answer to the third argument for Moshe. I will be alongside you. And that is what humility is. What humility isn't, I'm rubbish, I'm pathetic, I can't do anything, Ovai is mere. That's not what humility is. Humility is understanding who I am and what I can do as part of a greater society. That I am a cog in a massive machine which is being run by God. I am never alone. And yes, it may seem like there are people who can do the job better than me. It may seem like there are people who will detract from my work and my good actions. But as part of that, as that cog slowly turning, allowing the gears to shift, allowing the world to run, understanding that I've got such an important role and I can do so much with God's help. That is what true humility is. After this back and forth with Moshe and God, Moshe had this argument with God for 7 days. Moshe finally understood. The Torah says, Moshe anav mikol adam. Moshe was more humble than anyone else who has ever lived. Moshe, yes, there were times in Moshe's life where he failed as well. There were times when he complained to God and said, why have you left this burden onto me? Why have you left me to deal with this people? There were times when Moshe forgot as well. But Moshe understood that he was not alone. Moshe understood that God was with him, that everything he did was part of a greater society, a job given to him by God. And when in life we have this burning bush moment, we have a time where we look, we see, we notice something needs to be done. There's a burning need for something to happen. Don't look for excuses. We can't look for the excuses as why not to do that. We can look to God and say to God, God, I want to help here. I want to do more. Don't be frightened of how great you can be. Be the greatest person you can. Because by being the greatest person you can, you'll truly uplift all those around you and help create a much, much better world. Thank you very much for tuning in. That's the end.